All right, good evening, everyone. We're still waiting for Peter, but we're gonna get the meeting rolling. So I will begin with our all too familiar paragraph for remote meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law and Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Board of Health will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at townofgb.org. For this meeting, members of the public and committee members may attend the meeting in person, or for those who wish to do so remotely, may by following the instructions at the top of this agenda. For those who are not in person, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. With that being said, we'll call the meeting to order. Since we have a quorum, Dr. Ruby Chang.
Here.
And I am here as well, Michael Lanu, and Peter Stanton will be joining us momentarily. So until he signs in, I propose that we skip ahead to our health department updates. And then we can circle back to the top of the agenda.
Okay. So, starting with what's on the agenda here is the DPH, yes. So the Department of Public Health launched a beach testing portal dashboard, this spring. The intention is to help boards of health, health departments get records to DPH and get that reporting done in a more timely and hopefully easier fashion of just having the lab upload results directly to this portal. But this is the avenue in which we'll notify DPH of beach closures and or hazardous bacteria levels. So the other side of this is that this portal is now it has a public dashboard, so folks can go on mass.gov and look up any beach or Board of Health permitted waterfront and look up closures, bacteria exceedances, etc. So I've been getting a lot of calls in the health department about this portal and whether or not it's accurate, but it should be up to date. Currently, it was saying that Lake Mansfield was closed, and it was up until July 1st. So, but if there ever was a bacteria exceedance at any of our beaches, Green River, you would hear through the health department that there was that beach closure in addition to this portal, but we would get the information out locally first before we probably updated that portal.
Okay. Very good.
And then something that we did last week is, so it says here River Street rodent investigation. At the end of June, a resident on River Street came into the health department to make a complaint about a neighbor having a rodent infestation. So the way we approached it in our health department, as opposed to just following up with that one residence, we treated it like it was a neighborhood concern, and we went around to several different homes in the vicinity looking for your usual rodent attractant food sources. So your compost piles, your chicken coops, bird feeders, etc. We didn't find any of that at any neighboring property or the property that the complaint was made upon. But we did identify a little bit of rodent activity at that particular property, and we're working with the homeowner to put in some mitigation measures and trapping, repellents, but it was not noted as an infestation the way that the complaint came in. So we're just working with the property owner at this point.
Okay. And do we have any plans to revisit, or is it just?
Unless there are further complaints among the neighborhood that there's more rodent sightings or it's observed to grow into an infestation, no, we'll just leave it with this, between the health department and this property owner to monitor it.
Okay,
Right.
very good.
Did you find out like why was that particular place had the rodents?
Well, the complaint was that this property owner had a number of bird feeders out for many months. So not just one, but multiple bird feeders. When we went to do our investigation, we only saw one bird feeder. It was mounted up high. It was inaccessible to ground dwelling animals as opposed to what it's meant for birds.
Okay.
So hopefully no more on that, but I just wanted to give you a heads up in case it turns into more of a neighborhood infestation, so. So the other thing, I don't know if you have the,
Do you guys have like microphones? 'Cause I cannot hear you.
The air conditioner.
I'm so.
want me to turn this off?
Can we turn that off? Do you mind if we turn off the air conditioner?
No.
Because it is really loud. It is really loud. If it becomes an issue with the air quality, let us know. We'll turn it back.
Thank you.
So there's a flyer in the shared drive that I put this afternoon for Berkshire Harm Reduction. They used to have an office in Great Barrington. In addition to their office in Pittsfield, they've now moved. And the address is on that flyer, and I can share with the group if anyone's interested in attending, but it will be August 1st from 5 to 7, 42 Summer Street in Pittsfield. So.
Is that in addition to what we have here?
They're no longer in Great Barrington. They're exclusively in Pittsfield, and they have this new location that they're inviting folks to come.
Why is it they left us? There're just not enough people.
I think that maybe was one of the reasons, but I'm not sure why they moved out of Great Barrington. Now they're centralized in Pittsfield.
So it's 42
Summer Street, second floor, Pittsfield, 5 to 7 PM on August 1st. Not that anyone would be leaving Great Barrington that evening, 'cause it's the car show and the Mahawi Gala, but yeah.
Okay.
And then the last, Ruby, maybe you can help me with this update, but the Berkshire County Board of Health Association is offering a heat emergency assistant grant program, which it sounds like you heard a little bit more about on their meeting last week. But they are testing out this pilot program offering up to $8,000 per municipality. Is that correct? So the municipality can sign on to this pilot program where they would then become eligible for up to $8,000 to receive five air conditioning units that they can award to community members upon application. So in order to enter into this pilot program, the Board of Health, Select Board, Emergency Management Director, someone from that municipality has to agree to be the point person to monitor applications coming in for these window unit air conditioners, distribute them,
So
and see that they go to
Right.
eligible.
right, the reason for this
Homeowners.
pilot program is because we're really concerned about with the heat index that we've been experiencing, that it's really designed for people over 65 and also people with very young children. It is to be wall mounted, so we have to consider who's gonna mount it because they're pretty heavy, and to make sure that it's set into the window correctly. So it's a very multi-step kind of a offer, and then who will take it down when winter comes. So, and it's really designed to be cooling one room in the house so that people can go to that room in the hottest part of the day. And there will be, as you all know, there will be an increase in your electricity bill having this unit, which is not provided in the grant. So, but I still think it's a really important thing that we should, think about providing. And maybe someone from the DPW might be interested in helping us.
Sure, I think we can plan to have this as an agenda item at our next meeting. I'll talk to our emergency management director and our senior center liaison, but if this board is okay with it, I think we should apply to be the responding department coordinating these applications, if this is something that you want to do.
Sure.
There's an application form.
Yes,
Yeah, did you get it? Or no?
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. And that's all.
that's all.
Okay, good. Well, I see Peter's with us tonight, so the record can reflect that he joined with us about 6:25. So, Peter, we just cycled through the department updates and we'll circle back to the top of the agenda. I have not seen the minutes yet from June. Neither has Ruby, so we'll discontinue approval of those till our next meeting. So our first order of business is appointing our new health inspector, James Massey.
Okay, so this is here just as a technicality. James is not present tonight. I didn't give him enough heads up so he could arrange it in his schedule. He's planning on coming to the next meeting to participate, introduce himself, give a little overview of what he's done thus far as in his new role, but he started his new role July 8th, so I think, what are we, the third week? And he's done a really great job just, learning and dedicating himself to the procedures of the health department. So appointing him as your new health inspector will allow him to sign off on permits, start, drafting correction orders if that's necessary, and just do the local public work on your behalf.
Okay,
Has he received training for septic inspection and food inspection?
James comes from the culinary world, so
Mhm.
he's well versed in food codes. In his time in the health department, he's doing on your own time training modules and all the other aspects of what we do. But yes, he's taken a few classes related to septic systems, as well as shadowed me on Title V inspections as well as perk tests so
Mhm.
far.
good. Okay. There's no other comments from the board. I'll look for a motion for this appointment.
I second.
Oh,
All right,
motion.
and I'll make the motion
Go ahead, Peter.
as stated. I make the motion to appoint the new health agent.
I second.
All right, and for a roll call, Peter,
Aye.
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. All right, very good. Next order of business is tobacco license being sought by Dollar General at 197 Main Street. And I don't believe there's anyone here tonight.
There will not be anyone in attendance for this agenda item. So if you'd like to continue this to the next meeting when someone can be present, that's also fine. But I can just give you an overview of why this is on the agenda too now, if you think that's helpful.
Sure.
Okay, so we have pretty stringent local tobacco retailer regulations as well as state regulations. So after consulting with you, we thought it would be best when there are new tobacco retailer license applicants that they just come before the Board of Health to talk about what they're proposing and how they can comply with local and state regulations. A couple years ago, I think it was 2019, when we revised our local regulations, we set a cap of no more than 12 tobacco retailers in Great Barrington. We haven't had that many in quite a while. We currently have 10 licensed tobacco retailers. So if approved, this Dollar General will be receiving the 11th retail license. So I just think it's a good chance for them to come before the Board of Health and we can relay any important information about our local regulations. They have submitted the permit, they've paid, they have not completed the application thus far. Some of the things that they'll need to do is sign the tobacco employer retail agreement statement, signing off that they've received and read our local regulations. They also need to certify that they've trained their sales clerks in that tobacco retailer certification that's put out by Tri-Town Health Department. So they haven't done that yet. And they also need to provide the health department with a list of products from their distributor. So those lists can be quite extensive. But we like to go through them to make sure that they're not receiving any products that are underhandedly flavored when we have this existing flavor ban in Massachusetts.
Okay. Well, I'm inclined to not only see a completed application, but also to have someone representing them show up at our meeting.
I totally agree. I have a lot of concerns about adding a company that sells tobacco that has been known to have much lower prices than other tobacco sellers. Therefore, they're drawing in a crowd of people that will look at the sales, dollar stores. There are $3 stores in this country, and Dollar General is one of them. And then there's Dollar Family, and then there's another dollar store. Dollar Family and Dollar General both sell tobacco. And from their stores throughout the country, people have done studies and found in general, their tobacco cost is less than other retailers. So they're able to attract a younger generation of people who wish to go there to buy tobacco. I'm not sure what is going to happen with this particular store, but this is just the general trend of what's happened with other stores throughout this country. And people have done studies and have shown that the lower cost of tobacco sold in this way have increased the tendency for younger generation to go there to buy the tobacco because it's cheaper. So I'd like to hear what they have to say, and more importantly, I'd like to hear how they're going to advertise their sales and what is their cost structure?
Okay. Well, good. All good questions.
Thank you.
All right, so do we need to take a vote to continue this? Or can we just continue it till the next meeting?
You can just continue
Okay.
it to your next meeting. Do you want to take a moment now to decide when that might be or save that for another time?
We can do that now.
How about we wait until they've completely fulfilled all of their permits and are ready to present it before we add it onto our agenda?
Okay, so you want the final approval.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, sorry, how, I just wanna get this right,
Yes.
how will you address the fee, the cost structure?
Yes,
And how will you advertise?
yes.
Okay, so to be continued to
Okay,
either our August meeting if the application is complete or September.
okay,
So I guess it'll be contingent on completion of application and whatever meeting is upcoming.
you got it.
Okay. Next item of business is variance review of the Board of Health well regulations for 86 Egremont Plain Road. The residents of whom are seeking a permit.
I am very sorry. I can't find the plan that Brandon kindly submitted. You saw it. It
I've
was
seen
in
it.
my office on
Yes.
Tuesday, so
Got extra copies, but not with me.
that's okay. So, this application, as it says on the agenda, is for 86 Egremont Plain Road. The applicant is seeking a slight variance from the leach field. Our well regulations say that the well needs to be 100 feet from your septic system's soil absorption system. They're proposing about 81 feet from the existing septic field. So, Brandon, the applicant is here. He can speak to his application a little bit more, but from what I understand, he has an existing water source. There's a point head well in the basement of this home that he's purchased. The water is not meeting sufficient needs for him or his family, so they are looking to drill a new well. The property has, property line constraints, and so they're only working with a finite. How large is your parcel?
0.28 or 0.26 acres.
0.26 acres, okay.
So it's a very narrow, and it kind of widens out further through the property, but where it gets wider is where the septic is, and yeah, so it's pretty tight spot.
I saw the map, yes. Well, one thing I'll just say, while I think of it, is that from where they have their well now to where they propose a new well, they're getting farther away from the septic. So where their current well is, it's actually closer to their leach field. And the site of the proposed new well is farther away, even though it doesn't meet our setback.
And how far is the well from the road?
47 feet. As opposed to what our well regulations require is 50 feet from the public way.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So. Yeah, and then, and maybe we haven't discussed this, so you can help me, relay to the board. Do you have, so on the plan, it says that there were stables, and you've noted here on your application that, this proposed well will be 96 feet from stables, barnyards, manure piles. Is this
I just
stable?
have 3 chickens by my barn, so it's just a little chicken coop.
So it's not currently being used as
No.
a stable manure pile, okay. So our regulations require 150 feet from stables, barnyards, manure piles, manure storage tanks, and they're proposing 96 feet.
Right.
Away from that,
Yes,
but again, farther away from where their existing
Yes.
wellhead is.
yes, and they do have
Yeah.
constraints based on property size. So in my opinion, this is their best place they can put that well. And assuming that they'll drill down quite far, you'll have quite a bit of casing.
Yep.
I think being 3 feet within the setback is reasonable to grant a variance. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm in favor of granting this variance. Any comments from you, Peter?
Nope, makes sense.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else from the board or the applicant, I'll look for a motion to approve this variance.
I make a motion to approve this variance.
A second.
And for a roll call, we have Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Great, thank you very much,
Thank you, guys.
and good luck.
No, go.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Good luck.
Okay, next agenda item is policy and procedures for permitting septic installers without the required Berkshire County Board of Health Association certificates.
Okay, I just wanted to pick up where we left off.
Yes.
At our last meeting
Mhm.
with setting some policies that would help streamline our health department activity for this type of situation. So I don't have it ready in like a pretty format for you to approve, but I think the discussion is still ongoing
Mhm.
regardless. So just to recap from what we discussed this last meeting, applicants coming into the health department for a septic installer license without a Berkshire County Board of Health license should be coming to the Board of Health for approval.
Mhm.
It's not something I should be doing
Right.
in the health department myself if they don't have, because the current policy is that the Berkshire County Board of Health Association license is a requirement for all septic installer licenses. So any variance of that needs to come before the Board of Health. At our last meeting, you had discussed that allowance might only be open for, or should only be open for those seeking a job-specific license,
Yeah.
someone just wanting to come in to apply for or install one septic system in Great Barrington, not an annual license.
Yes.
If they're seeking an annual license, which is unlimited jobs for the year, they should be going through the same requirements that everybody else needs to go through and obtain this license in January or whenever the class is offered. So specifically talking about someone who doesn't have this license and that is only applying for one install in Great Barrington.
Yes, or we could simply say it's all the variance request would only be good for one installation.
Variance request would be only good for one
Yes.
installation. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is what you said.
okay, and so when they come before the Board of Health for discussion, some of the requirements that we talked about is proving their expertise in this field and how they might do that. And so we had spoken about requiring letters of recommendation from other engineers that they had worked with in the past. Other licenses from their locale, whether that's the health department, using this last septic installer as an example. His home base was Agawam, so he was licensed annually by the Agawam Health Department. So
Mhm.
providing that annual license from their home health department.
Mhm.
Any other, this is Berkshire County Board of Health is one of the more well-known certificate programs in the area, but FERC, the Franklin Regional Health Department, has also recently instituted their own certification process for septic installers.
Mhm.
That's not mandatory, but it's still the standard that happens in the Pioneer Valley. And that's the only one I know of. So most people, even from that part of Western Mass, are still coming up to Berkshire County to get their certification through our class. So some other certificate or license proving that they have a relationship with a health department. And then contacting the engineer that has designed this particular septic system and getting their verbal or written blessing that that engineer is comfortable with this particular installer putting in their design.
Yes.
Having all of these things with them in a packet to come before you for you to review and make an educated decision.
Can I just add one other thing, is that I would like a contact with the permit town that they're permitted and make sure they don't have a track record of bad installations in the past. And the reason being that though they may have a permit and they've taken the class, they may have had complaints made to the Board of Health of their town that we're not privy of.
That's a good point.
And so it would be great if we can go back, let's say for a period of 5 years, that they have to get a certification from the Board of Health of their town that provided the permit, that they have a clean track record. There have been no complaints.
Okay. That sounds like something I would do.
If
I-
someone would ask you.
Yeah.
You would say, oh, this person we've known, I've gone to inspect the installations and it's
Yeah.
been all been really right up to what they should be.
Yeah.
Or they could come back and say, you know, we've had complaints, we've had to go back and re-inspect multiple times, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's, like I said, that sounds like a reference check that I would do internally before said meeting to review,
Yeah,
and I could bring that information to you. So bringing all of those things to the table, do you feel like you could make an educated decision as to whether or not this person should be licensed or not, or is there something else that you would like to see in this type of application packet for someone without a Berkshire County Board of Health license? So that's, I should start over, that's one avenue that we spoke about at our last meeting. The other avenue is just saying, if you don't have a Berkshire County Board of Health license, you're not eligible for any local septic installer license in Great Barrington. So those two things we discussed, and I will say that after talking to some other towns locally, like Egremont, Pittsfield, Lee, Lenox, Stockbridge, Tri-Town, they do issue permits to septic installers without the Berkshire County Board of Health license. They have just put extra measures in place, like, for example, I'll just leave it there, we can talk about it later, but so I guess maybe that's something to decide now too, is whether or not you want to set procedures in place for an installer coming in without this license, or do you want to just make a policy now saying, if you don't have this license, you're not eligible?
I think the procedure we outlined, that criteria, they don't have that permitting. They have to meet this criteria. I mean, it's not a guarantee that we'll issue a license.
so as you well know, the training program is once a year.
Mhm.
So they miss the training program, they have to wait another year. So I think there's a time limitation to why they need to have this permit before that training program comes around. So I think in addition, if they need a permit before that, they could take that training program. There has to be another reason. For example, it's an emergency. And the landowner cannot find another person that can do the job, so they have to go outside. You know, otherwise they could wait and get that training program so they can get the full permit.
Sure, when do they typically offer?
It's like October sometime.
It's yeah,
Or was it
I
January?
think it's in January or February, and then
Yeah.
the license renews every March.
Uh,
So it's a March to March license with the class offered January, February. Think with the thinking of that being a slower time for septic installers.
Well, certainly, if the application comes into the office before the training, then we can ask that the training be done. Since it's in such a
I
short
see what
period
you
for the
mean.
beginning of the year.
Yeah, like
Yes.
if it's in December,
Yes.
January.
Usually I don't think many permits come in at that time of year for septic.
Not
You know, for
usually.
example, if they're planning to do a septic design in April, then, and they're contacted usually a couple months ahead of time. So when the ground defrosts, then they can do the work. So therefore, they should have the time to do the training and then get the full permit.
Mhm.
If it's an emergency, it's, you know, October and everybody's job is full, and then you have a septic failure and you need to have something done right away, then this is where everything, a temporary license would be appropriate.
Do you think that they should come before you to demonstrate that of how it is an emergency?
I
Or
don't think
do you
so. I think
think-
you can make that determination. You can figure out if the septic is gonna last through the winter, or is it, it has to be replaced, or something has to be done right away.
Okay,
But that would be your expertise.
okay.
If it's a sale or they need to upgrade because of a sale. I think that'll be something.
All right, and so what I was gonna say about other towns, when they do issue this license to someone without a Berkshire County certification, they end up charging for that license far more than they would just someone applying with this certification for for an annual or job specific. So currently, Great Barrington charges $100 for an annual license or $75 for one job.
Mhm.
What Egremont does is charge like $200 or $300 for that one installation. Because they know that it's gonna take that health agent. It's gonna take more time for the health agent to do inspections and ensure compliance of that septic system.
Mhm.
So whereas right now we only do one septic installation inspection. Go out, make sure that it's built according to the septic design that we approved. Someone without this license or proof of. Or, yeah, we would probably go more than once, 2 or 3 times to ensure that they've built it according to the design.
Okay,
So that's
so
one other thing for you to consider.
yes, so I think it'd be good, to see this document written up in its entirety, and then. I would like to hear from you what you think a good fee will be based on the amount of time, and if it's in line with what Egremont does, that's fine. But I think it'd be good for us to have a recommendation from you, since you're the one who goes and does the work, or. And then we can approve that all in one go, so to speak.
Okay.
Okay,
I think that we're dealing with potentially a temporary shortage of installers, and I'm thinking that we want to be careful about doing anything that's policy like, as opposed to treating it as a 1-by-1 for a period of time and being open to these other scenarios. But it seems like, future Board of Health members and agents might not want to deal with a policy that, that has this loophole in it.
so are you envisaging something more like a kind of a procedure rather than a set policy?
Right, exactly. Something that we can do for the time being that spells these pieces out, but isn't making it in part of the institution.
Sure. I think the one thing we probably would need to just specify with a vote would just be the fee, the increased fee for this type of a variance. So we'll do that at our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll have kind of a policy outline written up rather than our procedure outline, I should say. Okay, very
Okay.
good. Excellent. Okay, next item of business is the review of brown water complaints from Houstonic Waterworks customers. And don't know if you want to say anything.
Yeah,
Start
sort of
out.
written down the dates, but I think. We started getting complaints about brown water experienced by Houstonic Waterworks customers about 2 weeks ago. I think it was maybe 2 Mondays ago. We got a phone call from someone that said, hey, there's all this activity on Facebook about brown water. Have you heard about it? And at that point I said, no, that this is the first I'm hearing of this reoccurring issue coming back up again for Houstonic customers. So I relayed to this person that called to just say, hey, please have folks contact the health department. We don't monitor Facebook with this type of thing. And so it's always best to have folks call or contact the health department if they're experiencing these water quality issues. And so that's just what folks did. And been getting a number of complaints, or should I say just observations of what customers have experienced in the last month. And as you know, I've forwarded those on to you, and then the 3 of you, and then DEP also for review, because
So
they
I
also have.
received 16 emails, and I was wondering, were all of them referred to DEP?
The ones, no, only the ones that had photos or were specific about brown water. Some of the emails that or concerns that came through the health department were yes, about water quality, but also about what the Board of Health can do. And so you got all of those, DEP didn't get those. They specifically got the concerns that were related to water quality experienced by Houstonic Water customers.
So the documented with pictures, so it was, okay. Yes.
So can I just so I understand it, so the emails that we got is not the full picture. You have gotten other emails.
No,
Okay, so the 16 emails is the totality of the complaints.
yes.
Okay.
I have seen those too.
Yeah, so I wanted to put this on the agenda, or we discussed, you decided that we should put this on the agenda because there's been so much coming through the health department that it seemed like it was a good time to talk about this again and where we go from here.
Okay,
So, well,
one question, have we received any comment from DEP from all the, nothing?
no. So other than Deirdre Doherty is no longer our Western Mass Region section representative.
I think you
We
can-
haven't received any notices of non-compliance or recent administrative consent orders from DEP. They've, in the last month, they've not at least forwarded communication to the health department about any corrective action that they've taken against Housatonic Water.
So as far as we know, their regular testing hasn't, there's been nothing's been flagged. No exceedances.
Correct.
Right.
Question.
Oh, can I just
Yes.
finish and then we'll let you guys talk? So my understanding is that the water testing through Housatonic Water Works is done quarterly. And this is something that the Mass DEP requires. And the way it's done is that they have an independent water tester that goes out, collects the water, and brings it to Microbac, which is the laboratory, and the testing results is done. I tried looking online at Housatonic Water Works to find when the last water testing was, and that was in 2023. And I did not see anything since 2023, any water testing results from the labs. So I don't know if the customers get them and it's just not on the website, or am I looking in the wrong place? But I don't see any reports. So
I have a question. If you don't mind, so it's not, I wanted to ask Rebecca. You said Deirdre Doherty is no longer the Western Mass DEP contact.
Can you address the
Yes.
chair? Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Can you tell me who's voter?
yes, it's Doug Payne.
Doug Payne and Andrew Kelly are the two.
I
that we
didn't
can-
hear the whole thing. Is it, those are the people
Those
in
have-
charge now instead of Deirdre Doherty?
Yes, yes,
Mhm,
yeah,
Thank you.
Yep.
Mhm.
Payne, you're spelling P-A-Y-N-E?
I think-
PAINE.
yes,
P-A-I-N-E?
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
Douglas. Period, Payne, PAINE at mass.gov.
So I put the consumer confidence report that Houstonic Water just issued for, or put out for 2023 on our shared drive. That's on their website.
But we don't have any data from 2024. Is that correct?
No, I mean, just in practice, Houstonic Water Works doesn't send that information to the health department. We get communication from DEP if there's ever a violation
Okay,
or, some sort of corrective action being taken on their part.
so the water testing is done quarterly and is reported to the DEP. There should have been some sort of data from April to May is usually when the time is. So we'll have to find out what is the most recent report. Because I couldn't find it.
So what are the results from the most recent
Mhm.
testing from? And then we get that from DEP.
Yes, that would be good to know. And we could ask them specifically in light of the complaints we've started receiving in beginning of July, basically. What do their numbers look like? I mean, I think if there is an exceedance, we get those notices fairly quickly. There's no big
I would say
delay,
so, right,
judging by past experience.
yeah.
Okay,
So microback, back lets DEP know the
So-
results?
So the person picks up the water quality as an independent person, it's not anyone from Housatonic Water Works, they don't even know when they come out. So they work specifically and for Mass DEP, and then the microback report, the lab report, goes to the DEP. It's reported directly to the DEP.
Okay, so at what point does Housatonic Water Works? Are they aware of the test results?
I think they get the results as well. They're sent to both the Cotter Company and to DEP. My understanding. What's that?
But not to our health department.
No, as you all know, we are not the primary regulator for a public water supply.
Yeah, but still. I
Yes.
mean, from a public information,
Yes, that's been the long-standing procedure and policy since,
Can I ask you, do you think that, I mean, I had a lot of exchanges with Deirdre Doherty.
yes,
And she was the Western, manager. for
Yes.
DEP. Have they not replaced her? And the other two people you mentioned, I know worked for her.
I think she's retired. My understanding, she's retired, so she's now no longer working there.
Okay, but I mean, are they replacing that position?
Yes, I think they now have her, Doug is now
I don't know, I
either,
don't know what their titles are.
okay,
When I spoke to Doug, he just said, you can forward these complaints or this communication to me and Andrew Kelly. I don't know what their titles
so
are.
our working assumption is that
Yeah.
they have taken over her role.
Oh, okay,
But as for official titles, I'm not sure about that.
yeah. And can I ask you one other?
Please.
Related to that, some of the water users are very concerned that there's been a lag in, the reporting of, the levels, especially during these warm months. So,
How do you mean a lag in reporting?
well, they usually will have, there's a scientist amongst them. So we usually have that information by now, and they're wondering if the lag is purposeful because the numbers are too high.
And do they get the reporting from DEP or they're getting it from the website, HWW
Yeah,
website?
usually the HWW website, and they said, somebody should look into why there's a delay like this. So would you have any role in that?
We can certainly make that inquiry,
That would be really
Yes.
helpful.
but we don't have an official role in them.
Yeah.
Yes, like we were just discussing, if there's ever an exceedance, we usually get those notifications quite quickly. When there is, from DEP saying there was an exceedance for such and such a compound,
Yeah.
and this is what the action that was taken. We
Okay.
we do get those notices.
Yeah, and if there's a delay, you can kind of officially say.
Yeah, if we're not seeing it, as Ruby said, she's not seeing it on the website.
On the website for HWW?
Yes, I believe they have a lot of results there.
Right, so are they legally obligated to post those results?
That I do not know.
Okay, can we find that out?
We can find that out.
Okay. The second thing is, when was the last time DEP had the testing done? Because you're saying, okay, there's no information on HWW's website, but DEP, the way I understood it, the way Ruby explained it, was that DEP hires Microbac to do independent testing. So It sounds like the quarterly testing is initiated from DEP.
Yes, DEP approves the sites for collection of samples and the lab goes out unbeknownst to the Houstonic Water,
Okay,
collecting the samples, they come back, they
Right.
test them, the results get sent out.
so when was the last time they collected samples?
My understanding it was fairly recently, but I don't have a specific date.
So can we find that information
Yes,
out?
I did call Jim Mercer this afternoon.
Not Jim Mercer, the DEP. Jim Mercer is not a reliable person to have a conversation with about this. If DEP is ordering an independent lab to do these studies, we need to have communication with the DEP. When was the last time they ordered these studies? And what are the results? Whether they're high or not, I think the results should be placed on the Board of Health website for everyone to see, and that eliminates a lot of the questioning.
Yes.
So there's two separate things going on. HWW can do their own testing, or are they legally required to do testing?
They are legally required by DEP to pay for the testing that's done,
Okay,
but they don't collect the samples.
okay.
So the lab.
So
does that.
they're not a reliable source, but we do have the DEP as a reliable source. So I think it's important to find out when was the last time they tested,
Mhm,
what were the results,
mhm.
and when is the next time they're testing? And kind of overall, I mean, are
Well,
they doing it quarterly? Like, what is the DEP doing?
It is quarterly. I'm
It's
trying to
Well, if
look.
it's been done quarterly, how come none of us have any results over the last so many years? Doesn't make any sense.
So I just wanna understand, the people who get the water bill do not get a copy of any drinking water testing results.
No.
See, in the fire district, we do, the Great Barrington Fire District, we do get that, I can't remember how regularly.
Yeah, I
but-
think once a year, I remember getting them before I had the well. So
That
I
was-
was under the understanding that with your payment, with your, what do you call it?
Statement,
Bills,
Yeah.
statements, that you would get the reports,
but they,
but you don't.
No, so one, who holds them accountable? The DEP, and then if they don't do it, they fine them, like, who's responsible for overseeing that they do the testing themselves? And give the
DEP,
results out to the public?
I don't know what their requirement for posting results is. I'm not sure.
But
What
the
that,
requirement is every quarter, so I don't know how they divide up the quarters.
Okay,
And I'm sorry, yes.
In the
Jennifer?
past, we have received a letter, telling us how great the water is.
it's pristine, yeah.
okay.
But,
So it's not that we haven't received a letter, we have.
yeah, we do.
Do you actually get a document that lists all of the testing results? No, just. like
I
just a
don't think, I think they
statement.
just say, the standards are this and we're above those standards. They don't show you.
They don't
test
give you the
results.
numbers.
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Okay,
But
And
I-
it's called Houstonic Water, so it's like the.
Yes.
Starting the head house.
Yeah, it's not a
So-
reliable source.
okay, so we,
And so where's our reliable source? And let's put out the information when they test. I know we don't know the exact day or where they're gonna test. They testing quarterly, and then how do we access the results from the test that they have received? And two, if HAW is legally required to do it quarterly, why are they not doing it, and who holds them accountable?
I think they do what now? The testing? Are they, are you referring to the testing or are you trying to posting of results?
Both.
The testing happens regularly. That's not in question. DEP requires that.
How
The
do you
lab
know
does
that
that.
it's been done if they don't post it?
Because that is if it hadn't been done, we would be flagged that testing's not being done. The DEP would let us know. They would not be in compliance with the regulations.
Have they ever told you before that they weren't in compliance?
We have never received notes about non-compliance due to non-testing. So
Due to non-testing.
as far as we know, the testing happens at regular intervals. We don't know the exact date, but the
Okay,
testing happens.
okay, and then if can we find out if they're legally responsible for posting those results?
We can make that inquiry,
And-
certainly.
what's the time period? 2 weeks, a week?
We can find,
24
we can find details about that. What, if any, are the legal requirements for posting testing results? We can,
Right,
yes.
and how does that kind of take place? I mean, does HAW have to send the results to DEP
no, the results come from the lab, remember.
from the lab that
To DEP.
HHW?
No, the lab,
An independent lab.
independent labs, they have to be sanctioned by the DEP, so it can't just be any lab. Labs that do the water testing for public water supplies have to have the sanction or the approval or blessing from DEP, so not just any lab. So those labs, it's set up and they're required. The Houstonic Water is required, my understanding is to pay for the testing, but they don't have anything to do with the sample collection or the actual testing of the sample. That's done at the lab. So lab comes out, this contract and the arrangement set up through the DEP. They come out at regular intervals, they test, they get the results go to DEP and to Houstonic Water.
Right, two separate things, so.
One thing,
Houstonic
two different
Water
people.
Is allowing DEP to do all their testing and they're not. doing
No,
any testing?
DEP requires that testing be done by a certified lab. As per being a public water supply.
Okay, so that lab, whoever the lab.
I believe it's
HHW uses.
It's Houstonic Water Basin, I think that's the name of the lab. That's the
I thought it's micro lab, yeah, who's it on it?
Houstonic Water Basin, I think.
Okay.
That lab,
That lab
Yes.
sends the results to DEP.
yes, and I believe to Houstonic Water at the same time. The results are sent to both parties.
And that's 100%, not, and not to be rude, it's not, I think, it's 100%, you know that,
I'm not gonna tell you 100%, but my working understanding is that's what happens.
okay.
That the results are-
100%.
Yes, but yes,
Okay.
we can do that.
Can I tag on to, are you done? I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, no, I just have one more thing to say. So, another thing that's been happening is it's being reported that the Board of Health has done X and, for example, has asked for money from the select board for testing. And that was denied. We had a meeting last night and when the select board was asked, we were told that that didn't happen. There was never a request for any of that. So Steve Bannon's on tonight, and so I asked Steve if we could have a dual meeting. And he's, had stated he doesn't want to have a meeting where it's board against board. So I asked him if he could call one of you and have a conversation to kind of clear this up, because being on this side, it feels like there's a complete disconnect between the two, and one says they did this, and the other says, no, they didn't do this, and this said, so. That needs to be cleared up so that we're all on the same page. And then in terms of what the select board is responsible for and what the Board of Health is responsible for. So what I was told last night, the Board of Health is responsible for anything that's health related. So there's elevated HAA5 levels. That's your responsibility.
Well, that's true generally speaking. But it's true for anything health related. The Board of Health is responsible for all health related issues in town of Great Barrington. But the devil is always in the details. So when you get into a public water supply, we are not the specific regulatory authority. So to say that we are responsible for Houstonic Water customers, generally speaking, you could say that, but it comes down to specific regulatory language in the code. We are not the specific regulator for the water supply. We are not.
That's what Steve Bannon said in his letter.
I-
So what is happening, I feel like a child in a bad divorce.
Well, this is, so
And it's
I will-
like
yes.
clearly the select board and the Board of Health better get together, because the people who are suffering are the Houstonic. I'm reading his letter, you're talking, I'm looking at this letter right here. And that he and Eileen Moody published it.
I saw that myself. Yeah.
And so who's telling the truth?
So
here?
if
And I'm gonna
you,
be very blunt,
yes,
because like I said, this has been going on for years.
It
This
has.
isn't something that I brought it up at the select board meeting last
Yes.
night. I stood before the select board in 2016 over dirty water. 8 years later, here we are. We go to a meeting. We're not the ones, they are. Go to another meeting. Well,
So
not really.
if I may, Michelle,
Sorry, Chair.
if I may,
This is-
I'm sorry, Michelle, but if I may, we will take,
We also
I understand
hear
that.
it tonight.
I understand. If I may remind you all of the meetings that took place over the winter, we, after many people coming into our meetings over the years now, we asked for guidance from our association, the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards. They sent out 2 representatives. We had a joint meeting. And if you remember, they didn't go into very detailed specifics, but they said, under the public nuisance laws, you have broad authority, which is true, we do. But you have to get into specifics. So we had continued to have meetings with them. We met them and their guidance was, as a Board of Health, in their opinion, they said you have, if I remember correctly, congruent authority with DEP to oversee, to regulate. But we don't have specific authority to regulate. And no Board of Health has ever taken action like this before. So you'd be setting precedent, which is why during the budgetary process, we asked for money
Right.
for possible legal fees. And I don't want to get into the budgetary weeds tonight, but if I may, continue. So they gave us a possible avenue to pursue. They said you could issue an order requiring the water company to do testing. That's all they said. They had no guarantee of what would happen next. What's the process after that? It was an open-ended possible avenue to go down.
There was nothing that indicated how we can enforce that.
Yes, there's no enforcement. It's never, you'd have to go to court. Because, and you're going outside of DEP, and even, just to fast forward for a minute, even if you did that and you issued that order and that testing happened, we received no response when we made inquiry to DEP to try to say, hey, if we took an action like this, would you accept the results? Would this be sanctioned? Would you even look at it? We received no reply from them. And they had a new commissioner at the time, so perhaps something is that. So all that to say,
DEP or DPU?
DEP. Because
Here as well.
yes, our thinking was if we go out on this uncharted path with no specific end goal, because remember, any local public health, as those consultants that we had come in, they said the whole goal of public health through a regulatory procedure is to get compliance. So we say we go down this theoretical avenue of requiring testing that we would require the company to pay for. What's the compliance goal? What's the specific? And we also said we don't have additional information to support to say, hey, we suspect that the testing that's going on is faulty or that is not representing the water system. We have no evidence of that. So
And we already have what you guys have reflected, that
Yes.
you don't believe in their testing.
Well,
You
it's-
don't agree with their testing.
It's
What they call
limited,
their-
is what the criticism is. So, you know, if I may quote, you all can correct me if I'm wrong, but, there's not a belief that this is not from the source because it would be more evenly distributed, the yellow, brown water. So the thought of putting in a couple of $1 million filter at the source does not address the problem. So the next step is to have more detailed testing along the distribution of the water, because then you can get closer to where the yellow.
trying to pinpoint the possible source, right? But
Yeah,
we're,
basic of the
yes,
details.
so
Yeah.
going,
Do you have something to say?
I was curious as to who, checks on when Houstonic Waterworks fixes the line. Who checks to see that what they've done is adequate?
I don't know.
If anybody, it would be DEP.
DEP would oversee that. My working assumption would be DEP would sign off on that. But getting back to what I was saying, so this theoretical avenue, under the nuisance laws, the select board can do the same thing. They have the same authority to make the same order, because they have that same broad authority under the nuisance laws. But they have no more specific authority as a regulatory body over Houstonic Waterworks than we do.
Okay, so has that been tried yet? That was the recommendation that they gave. Has that been initiated at all?
No, we haven't done that for a number of reasons,
Okay.
but the chief being, we see this as a town-wide issue, that it's not just the Board of Health issue, as evidenced by, the lack of specific regulatory authority. It's a broad regulatory authority, and also we don't have data to indicate that there is a broad, that the testing that is done, that DEP requires the testing that's regularly done. We don't have any evidence or data to say that that testing's faulty. Now, that doesn't mean, that means is basically what we're saying, is that the testing that comes in, it just showed, in the past, it showed high levels of different things. Then they come like HAA5. There was a period of time where it was high, then it came back into compliance. We don't have any other data or information to say that that testing is not reflective of what's going on in the water system. So
Well, we don't even know when they do it and where they're testing.
we do, the testing locations are sanctioned.
No, the
Yes, we
testing
know,
locations are chosen
Yes.
by DEP.
right. And that list can be furnished. We
Yes.
have that list of where those sites are.
Oh, you do? So it's
Yes.
in someone's home. It's outside someone's home.
Yes,
It's
this-
multiple different.
DEP
sites.
has to sanction where those sites are, yes. They have to approve of the collection points, yes.
Okay, and do you feel that the sample size is appropriate for the population?
We can't determine.
That can't be determined by
Well,
us.
it can be determined, because when you're doing a study, to get the p-value to be within a certain percentage, you have to have the right parts.
That's-
So you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
I
you're
think.
totally
So,
correct. So there's a couple questions that we need to
Sorry.
ask, we need to answer. Number one is, why do some of the houses have it? Brown water, and why do some of the houses do not? Number two is, what does the brown water actually mean? Does it mean there's an actual elevation of certain toxic substances? We have very limited data that said, my water is brown, I took it to the lab, this is the results, I'm presenting it to you. I don't have that data. And I wish that more people would take it upon themselves to collect that water, not just to collect it, but take it to a reputable lab, have them tested, and share those results with us.
Can't they bring the sample here and have the Board of Health have it?
No, there are specific procedures for collecting a sample to have a,
Depending on
Yeah.
what you're testing, I called 3-4 different labs that was, what is on the DEP site as recommended laboratories that have, correct, that are reputable. And what they said to me is that the typical testing would cost at least $200 to $300. Okay,
Per person.
per test.
Well,
So let's say we have to test 4 times a year. We have to test only when the water's brown. And we have to test on certain sites where people have clean water or clear water, and certain sites that have brown water. So if you add all those testing results back, and you have to trace back to the service line, your service line versus the main line, and figure out which lines are the culprit. Why do some people have it? This is a huge study that has to be done by engineers.
some people have wooden pipes going to their homes, Dr. Chen.
There are 5 different types of piping that
Some are
goes through.
wooden.
Some are galvanized iron, you have cement, you have plastic, and
And
you
wood.
have some old copper piping. So there's a difference. You have main pipes and you have service pipes. And then within the house, you have more different kinds of piping. So how do we do this study? We have to be able to get study by testing the water samples and analyzing the piping that goes to the individual homes, and then determine where the problem is.
Okay.
This is a much more comprehensive testing. It's not just like, let me test your water, but haloacetic acid has no color. So how do you, does that mean I would be missing half of the people that have cancer producing chemicals inside their water?
So that sounds like that needs to be our focus, and where can we get the funding for that, or does that be put in the
So you-
budget for next year?
So you could do a comprehensive funding. Then you get the test results. Let's say we get the test result. What do we do with that result? How do we handle that? Do we go back to Housatonic Waterworks and said, these are the piping that are in question, these are the homes that are in question. This is the responsibility of the house. The people who own this house to change their pipes. This is the responsibility of the Housatonic Waterworks and how they process water. Do you see what I'm
Right, but
trying to
first, we
say?
have to start somewhere. First, we have to gather the
So we
information.
have-
So if we need to pick an engineering firm, number one,
Yeah,
who's gonna be funding it, number two?
yeah.
The other thing is, my original question was, is the sample size enough for the population to get, going back to the original question that I asked?
It depends on what you're testing for.
You've had years to start doing
Can I
something.
speak, please? My hand's been up for quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Claudia Shapiro, 70 Nevermont Plain Road. I have a little different spin on this. At last night's select board meeting, Chairman Bannon addressed what he called social media disinformation regarding the town's testing of Housatonic Waterworks water. At the February 26, 2024 select board meeting, town manager report. Town manager Mark Rapinski announced a hiring of an independent Boston firm to test the Housatonic Waterworks, citing they had not been tested since 2021, with expected results within 4 months. This has since been edited, with town manager Rapinski stating, our consultants DPC Engineering, this is a Housatonic Waterworks topic. They're up and running with a financial study of our water system. The last time we collected data was 2021, when they were studying the system and also in its capitals means, with no available timeline. At last night's select board meeting, town manager Krasinski gave an update with a timeline not until October or November. DPC Engineering was first commissioned by the town and submitted a memorandum October 2018 that states in part, Deshaun Van Dusen, DPW Superintendent, Town of Great Barrington, from Dave Pickard, PE, President, DPC Engineering LLC, October 29, 2018, regarding conceptual water system management framework project. This draft memorandum includes a summary of the conceptual water system management framework project, in parentheses, project, for the Town of Great Barrington, including 1, an overview of the existing private water systems within the town, 2, a summary of existing drinking water infrastructure in each utility. 3, anticipated current and future needs for both private water companies. 4, a potential physical interconnecting piping concept. 5, development and analysis of a conceptual management alternative to merge the 2 water utilities into a single water utility. And 6, preliminary recommendations for follow-up tasks if deemed necessary by the town related to an implementation plan. Background. There are 2 private utilities in the town of Great Barrington. 1, the Great Barrington Fire District, GBFD, and 2, the Housatonic Waterworks, HWW. These private water utilities operate independently from the town. The town currently has no responsibility for either water utility other than that both water utilities serve Great Barrington residents and businesses. Over the past couple of years, some residents and business owners have reached out to the town regarding questions and concerns regarding their water service. As a result of these inquiries, and in an effort to proactively explore conceptual water management framework alternatives, the town commissioned this project. The Great Barrington pumps its water from a single source, the Green River Infiltration Gallery. The Housatonic Waterworks supplies consists of a single source, Long Pond Road. Of note, the Housatonic Waterworks distribution system includes a significant portion of undersized water mains. Approximately 48% of the pipes are less than 8-inch in diameter, standard current day minimum water main size. It is our understanding that a hydraulic module of the water distribution system has not been developed. As such, the extent of undersized water mains could negatively impact system pressures and fire flow capacities. Further, the town of Great Barrington in volume 2 of its 2013 master plan concluded that the mainline water mains in Housatonic Waterworks are in need of upgrades, and that, quote, poor water pressure for firefighting standards in the areas of the Housatonic mills is one of the several challenges
challenging obstacles to easy the redevelopment of the mills. Redevelopment will have to include costs of upgrades to the line in the vicinity of the mill. Now, you notice there was nothing about firefighting standards for any residential home inside Housatonic.
If I may, Claudia,
I'm almost done.
okay.
Conceptual capital program. A preliminary opinion of probable costs, OPC, was prepared for both distribution systems based on available pipe type and pipe diameter data. A total current day replacement cost for the GBFD and the HWW distribution systems were estimated to be $54,429,000 and $22,315,000 respectively. This data was summarized in the attached table 7 and 8. The physical interconnection of the two separate water utilities, I believe this was just accomplished on Christian Hill Forest Road, 1 acre, to the tune of $2.1 million dollars or about so, right? Since mechanical equipment generally has a life expectancy of 20 years, capital needs at both water treatments are also anticipated. Therefore, the total current day costs for upgrades to the Great Barrington Fire District and the Housatonic Water Work plants are estimated to be $5,350,000 and $1,350,000 respectively. The anticipated timeline for the Great Barrington Fire District Water Treatment Plant upgrades is from years 11 to 20, and those at the Housatonic Waterworks Water Treatment Plant upgrades are from years 21 to 30. Annual costs for anticipated capital projects were financed over 20 years at an annual interest of 2%. Conclusions. The Great Barrington and the Fire District and the Housatonic Waterworks both have significant distribution system capital needs that need to be addressed over the upcoming decades. And see here, there seems to be a lack of open transparency and a bigger picture regarding the comprehensive plan for Berkshire County. I cannot be the only person that's aware of it. I am fortunate to live in the Great Barrington Fire District, upper wellhead public recharge of the Great Barrington's drinking water, but unfortunate in fact that my property is in compliance with numerous transferable Massachusetts general law and Commonwealth Massachusetts regulations that include in part provisions for a hazardous waste combustion facility by right on industrial property. The town of Great Barrington cannot deny a developer due to such provisions added to the zoning bylaw section 9.2 Water Quality Protection Overlay District in 2010 and per MGL chapter 48 section 9. Housatonic is an environmental justice community, and the residents should be aware of this, where this is where waste facilities go. I am concerned regarding the rest of the River 2020 settlement signed by Chairman Bannon and the Great Barrington's acquisition of 149 Housatonic industrial acres with railroad tracks abutting the Housatonic River, and the lack of Great Barrington's participation in helping Lee stop the upland disposal facility, but the recent push by the town for use of rail. As both waste facilities this side of the state, Barrington and Pittsfield, and Bondi and Agawam were recently closed, leaving none other than my property's compliance. And I can tell you people that the last normal day I had living in the town of Great Barrington was January 26, 2010. And it is brutal and has been brutal. So thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You have to, I think there might be hands up. Me too.
Yes, we always prioritize people in the room who made the effort to come out. So I want to narrow this back down to constructive questions that you have for your Board of Health, knowing what we have gone over tonight, that what we outlined, that there was a path, but it's much more complicated than just saying, oh, do testing, as Dr. Chang has alluded to. That there's more, when we explored that potential path that was offered as a possible path. It wasn't saying you should do this or you definitely have to, boards of health should do this. It was, here's one avenue what you could explore.
But we have to look at the consequences
Yes.
and what are the expected result of what we do. Does this mean more litigation if no testing is being done in order to enforce this order that was placed by the Board of Health? Are we asking the town for more litigation funding so that we can get this? And what is the end result to all of this that we're asking for. There's a much bigger picture as
There most certainly is, Dr. Chang.
it should, yeah.
Needs to be,
Mr. Barrow
town
had-
needs to be
had-
transparent.
So we need a study, which was done about the piping. We need a study to figure out where is the groundwater and why do some people don't have groundwater. All of this is an engineering issue. It's a dilemma that needs to be addressed by a much bigger knowledgeable company that the town has to make an effort to provide these services. It's a much bigger picture than just Board of Health. Saying you need to get your water tested. Here's the money. Let's test this water. What is the result of all that? I'm sure that everyone wants to know what is in their drinking water. I'm sure, everybody wants to know. It's a right. It's a right of your health to know. However, how do we solve this problem in a much bigger picture?
Right, so as a point of order, as we're getting more into citizen speak time, so I think we should
Do you
transition
want
into
me to
that.
wait till- I can, I will.
Unless there's, so we're on this agenda item, unless there's any more specific questions about this agenda item before we move into the,
It is specific.
sure, if you can keep it brief.
At address.
Yes,
Toby Stanton, 69 Division Street. When they put new pipes down Division Street, maybe 15 years ago, I'm not sure. They put a pipe in, but they put two pipes going underneath the railroad tracks, two 1-inch lines that are feeding the 10-inch pipe. That's why there's no water pressure at the fire hydrant. So I don't know who approved that kind of, I mean, they would never allow that in a house.
Mhm.
And the fact that we have clean water, we have a brand new copper line coming from the street, we have brand new pipes. And our water does get brown, but only when they're working on the pipes.
Mhm.
All the other pipes, all the other people that are having brown lines, it's because their lines are shot in the ground. We don't need water testing to know that.
Mhm.
When they put those bladders in. And the ground moves, there's suction that creates, and it sucks dirt and everything into the water line. Because those diaphragms can't close around the pipe.
Mhm.
This is not easy to, I mean, not difficult to figure out. We just need to have the guts to do it, because it's a disaster.
are you referring to people's service lines, their private service lines?
Well, I don't know where it goes. Probably some of it is the service lines from the house to it. But it's not home.
Well, that's the challenge of it, it's hard to pinpoint, it could be many factors.
Well,
All right, was there another question?
Nor is it.
Yeah.
Yes.
To Dr. Chang's point, I think we have two kind of solutions or approaches. One is that, as was stated, the town doesn't have jurisdiction over either water companies. So I have been along, after the 2018 study, which I have on my hard drive and read about 40 times. I have been a constant proponent of acquiring both and putting it under the select board. I mean, we don't have that problem with the wastewater system because it's under the select board. It's, but the town needs to get serious about that and get a real acquisition lawyer and agent to move that forward and build that case. We're going it like a little step by step. The other part is the testing, as you said. It's a scientific and engineering issue. Now, if it's possible for us to have the funding to do the study, correctly, and the town could be reimbursed or whatever for seeing that it may be under litigation and the problem is surfaced, so that it's not a raid case, then we could proceed on both sides. But the select board has to be more definitive. And I think if people understand it, that they don't have any jurisdiction, then they would make some definite steps. This is at a critical state and we can't go on like this. I feel so terrible for all those people suffering with the water. I mean, that's why I've been studying it for
So-
4 years.
To summarize this, can you consolidate what you're trying to say?
Yeah, purchase HWW, but also, change the, stricture. It sounds more difficult than it is. The state stricture that set up Great Barrington Fire District as an independent entity, put it under the town like we have the wastewater.
And does,
And then they could purchase HWW instead of having, GBFD saying, I don't know if I really want to do it. Once they're owned by the town, then they can consolidate, purchase HWW and consolidate them like the report says.
so are you saying that if it becomes consolidated, it becomes a municipal process, it's a municipal responsibility or responsible municipal entity? Would that entity be in a better position to get more federal funding? Because there's lots of federal funding
Yes.
for infrastructure improvement, just
Yes.
like what happened with the, what city was it that had the lead issue in the water? Milwaukee, is it no? Flint.
Yeah,
Flint,
but
Michigan.
definitely.
And so,
State is
and,
better.
and so by doing that, what you're saying is that the advantage of something like this is to procure grant funding to
And-
fix our infrastructure.
And
Because
favorable bond rates,
in favor, because there is no other way.
Well, under the
because
Clean
you don't
Water
have,
Act,
you don't have the jurisdiction that you need in order for you and the select board to oversee this.
Let me
But we
also
don't have
remind
the
you,
Funding either.
as one point,
Right.
as one point, if the town took over Houstonic Water, we would not be involved regulatory wise. It still would be the DEP, because it's still a public water source.
I'm more talking about.
Right, but I'm just-
Funding.
Yeah, I see that,
Yes.
but I'm just saying,
For the Housatonic Water Works and the Safe Drinking Water Act, it's federal, so.
Yes.
Some Housatonic resident actually asked Steve Bannon at one of the selectmen meetings about the Clean Water Act, and she stated it would be free, and he said we're looking into it. That was like 8 months ago.
that's where the frustration is coming out.
It's all
Going around in a
frustration.
circle.
Yeah, how
For years,
Lack of
and we're
transparency.
still going around in a circle.
very understandable. Well, so,
Answer.
But the thing is, when you tell parents who wanna give their little kids a bath, last night, a person brought in a bottle of putrid water. That is what we have in Housatonic.
yes,
Would you give that to your children? I mean,
I think these,
no.
Yes.
This is causing cancer.
How do you know it's cancer free?
That's,
so,
but we keep going this one, that one, we gotta write this letter, we're gonna do this testing, and then we go to meetings and meetings and meetings. And we're going around in a circle.
Yellow acidic acid.
so
I mean,
if I may, we're gonna move to citizen speak time and you can get your official comments on the record, but I just want to remind people. The role of the local board of health is not the primary regulatory agency over Houstonic Water. I want to stress that. I'm not trying to kick the can or, pass the hot potato. I'm just saying, that's the reality of it. We had,
Okay,
yes,
but the thing is, if you get the funding and so forth, you can handle things like Rebecca, don't just give Rebecca the results. She could actually have a little bit more. to
but I'm
say
saying
about it.
we wouldn't though, because it's a public water source. And the DEP would still be pointing on it. We would be in the same position we are in them.
I think we'd just be closer to the issue. You would be, I think.
No,
Yeah.
it would be the same the relationships would be the same.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Can you ask the DEP?
Yes.
To give you the results, so you could post them, so everybody can see, rather than we wait until HW.
Yes, we're going to make that inquiry. Yes,
Chair,
yes.
did you say that citizen speak is gonna be for the record? So in other words, at the meeting, nothing we said was.
No,
for the record?
I'm saying we're going to officially move into that.
Okay.
So that anyone who wants,
What I said is.
it's in the right, yes.
For a change.
It is, but we have people online and so. Very quickly, yes.
So I'm all about solutions. So
Yes.
moving forward, then,
Yes.
are you guys willing to commit to having joint meetings with the select board on a regular basis pertaining to only this issue? Since
I don't think that step is necessary at this point. Because we have there's two different, the select board has their avenue that they're looking into something much bigger. They've done bigger studies, they're looking into possible purchase and stuff like that like I just was saying, if that happened, it wouldn't change our role at all.
But if it doesn't, I mean, they could wait another year.
They could,
According
but
to Steve Bannon, Chairman,
it-
eminent domain is, needs an agreement on both sides.
That's-
I'm not buying that either.
the plans or the avenues that the select board is looking into, we would, of course, like to know about that as citizens of Great Barrington and as your Board of Health, because we are concerned about this issue as we put as much time and effort into it as we can, and we've explored avenues like we have. But you have two different paths. They're on one path. We're a regulatory body. And we look at every problem as getting back into compliance. It's a compliant, from a Board of Health standpoint, it's a compliance issue. So we have a different focus. It's not to say that they don't overlap in some ways, but it's different.
But would you say that testing would be within the realm of something that you could mobilize? If it is, then I say that you are tied to the select board in getting funding to do that.
There's different things. If we tried to do. So like I mentioned before, there was advice given to us saying you could go down this avenue of issuing a certain type of order that would require certain type of testing to be done. That would be at the water company's expense. That's an avenue you could take. But like Dr. Chang was alluding to, the problem is so much bigger than just saying, oh, requiring testing, because that opens up more questions. It's not, and there's no clear objective to what does that do?
But if we don't do that,
And
then we're, liable, or the Housatonic water users are liable to have the, 50%, 80%, 25% rate increase to do something that may not solve the
But
problem.
that is out of our purview, rate, the rate increase, that whole thing is something outside of the board.
Well, no, it's related because if the causes, if the testing shows that the premise of the rate increase is invalid,
But
then
that's,
it's tied.
that's something that would be beyond our expertise as even a local board of health to that type of test, that type of study on that type of scale.
But could you ask the select board to fund an engineering study like they did for the DPC engineering study of 2018, as I said, I almost memorized it. If they could do that with, specific results to show whether or not it's the pipes, the source and, whatever.
It's a conversation we can have. I think that's where it can start. With-
Yeah, and that would help to prove or disprove that the filtration system is the cause of it. And that way, it would take the rate increase that's supposed to fix it off the table.
Well, I don't know if that's actually the case. But, and I would just point out that, remember, DEP being the primary regulatory agency, they have sanctioned saying, this is what needs to happen. A green sand filtration system needs to go in. That's what they've approved that. And they have more specific expertise in that by requiring that system upgrade be done than we have at this moment.
It's an easy way to narrow one cause and say, fix that, because then we don't have to spend money on the distribution system study. That's not really very effective for the
It's
users.
not the water.
Well, I'll say this one last comment and then we'll move into citizen speak time. The problem has many possible sources. And it's being asserted that there is a fix. That fix hasn't happened yet because it's tied up with the DPU rate increase. So we're at somewhat of a crossroad or a holding pattern until that issue resolves, until that plant goes in, until we see the results of that. I think that in reality, that's how I see it.
What's the timeline? Are you thinking about that?
I don't know what the timeline is for that specifically. I think that the
As
whole,
much as like a year?
I don't know. You'd have to ask DPU or, and all that,
DEP.
huh?
DEP.
Oh, DEP one
Can I
and
ask you what the fix is that?
this green sand filtration for dealing with manganese. And I'm not commenting either way, saying, oh, that's gonna fix it. That's what's being asserted as a fix to the manganese problem.
Yeah.
As far as we know, as we've alluded to, HWW is in compliance as far as we know. We could get a letter tomorrow saying the last round of testing showed otherwise, but as our working knowledge as of tonight is that they're in compliance. And as a Board of Health, that's our ultimate goal is compliance, whether it's food safety, housing, getting people to compliance. So we're stuck in a position where there's no obvious non-compliance issue. And so that's another consideration that we have to make when we look at any issue, but especially this one. And that's what makes this issue of the water quality for Houstonic water customers so difficult to deal with, because there's so many facets to it.
So having yellow and brown water is in compliance as long as it's below a certain level and.
According to DEP, it may be, unfortunately. So without further ado, let's move into citizen speak time. We have a number of hands raised online. They've been up for a little while.
Take 'em.
You missed, Board of Health questions and updates.
I did miss Board of Health. Are there any Board of Health questions and updates, or do we want to move right into citizen speak time? I have no updates or questions.
No, I don't have. any.
Okay, Peter?
I don't really have too much new to offer, except that it seems like I've read that the select board is moving forward with that study to be able to purchase. I've read about the green sand filtration system and going in and it being tied to those rates. But what's interesting about the conversation tonight is that I'm thinking that if the town does this study and decides to take on the waterworks, they're going to have the same challenge to figure out what to do. And because it seems like even with the filtration, it's probably going to mean many years of replacing specific pipes is what I'm hearing. That there's some things they can do at the source. They might be able to improve it a little bit, but ultimately it's going to be a big, long project. And yes, I think that taking control, like Sharon and others are saying, is the only way to start that process. But I don't think there's going to be a quick solution whichever way we go.
Right.
The
Okay.
main issue, I mean, in a way, we kind of know where the problems are.
Yeah.
What we don't have is the money.
Yeah.
We don't have the funding to actually do a comprehensive study and say, this is the cost of fixing the pipes. We're gonna do it in 5 years. This is how much we're going to get in capital building loans. And this is what we're gonna do. No one has come up forward and say, this is a plan, this is what we're gonna do, sit on tight.
But Senator Neal did publish, through his assistant about 2-3 years ago, different sources of acquisition money and, remedial money. Nobody has done anything with it. I'm not saying I know how much it is or whatever, but there is help out there. We just have to decide to move forward, and Peter's absolutely right. There's nothing magic about it. We just have to do it. And I know, not putting it on you guys, the Board of Health, but we don't even have any control. So, we don't have that same problem with our quasi-governmental institutions like the wastewater organization. I mean, when I was chair of finance, we reviewed their rates increases, we made recommendations. We don't even know what it's gonna be, and it's a circuitous process. The town doesn't have any control.
Well,
Sorry, I went off.
Hey, can I just say something about nationally, the public health infrastructure for water is a huge problem. It's
Yes.
just not here. So is there anything in conversation on a federal level, like all the towns have to be up to par with their wastewater treatment plant by a certain year? Is there any discussion about that, I mean, you have to invest. If you don't have clean water, you don't have decent life. So where are we putting our priorities? And yes, it's gonna cost a lot of money, but this is nationwide that these pipes are years and years old. So
Right.
it's gonna have to be done.
Right.
We just need to start somewhere, and I think the first place is to get it out of the hands of someone who is just an awful person. And the second thing I just want to say is I find it disappointing that, Michael, I'm really disappointed that you're not agreeing to kind of going forward with having ongoing meetings with the select board.
I didn't say I wasn't. I said, I don't think it starts there. I don't think joint meetings, that's the place to start.
Well, I think for us,
Yes.
it's a good place to start because we get mixed messages from both sides. So this way, if everyone's in the same room at the same time.
But for the record, we did do a joint meeting. We did have a joint
No, we
meeting.
need them on a continual basis. This is a huge issue that's been going on for 30+ years.
So
So-
am I hearing that you're proposing that we actually have some sort of a committee made up of Board of Health members and select board members whose sole purpose is to solve this problem?
Absolutely,
That's what I'm hearing.
absolutely. And in the interim, before that committee is formed, that we have monthly meetings. Joint meetings, not once a year. It needs to happen regularly. I mean, enough is enough.
And
So-
what would you hope to see at a joint meeting from the Board of Health and Select? A theoretical joint meeting, what would you hope to see?
So this kind of committee would be not just Board of Health or the select board, it would be the finance committee.
Mm.
It would be the planning committee.
Well, not to start, I think,
Yeah,
just-
What would you hope to see?
in the joint meeting.
Yes,
Solution, so when
Well,
we're
like-
having conversations, right, it's not he said, she said, or the Board of Health said they did this, or they did that. This way, it's all, listen, when you're face to face, you get so much more accomplished than emails and all this other stuff. I
It-
mean, it's.
but it wouldn't change the reality of the situation. in
We
any
have
way.
To start somewhere, you guys are on two separate avenues and going in two separate directions.
I
It
don't, I
is
disagree,
not
I
working.
disagree with that description of what's happening. I do. And I know we'll disagree. on it. But let's move to citizen speak time. So, yes, and Michelle can be first on citizen
Michelle,
speak
we
time.
are 70 Division Street. Regarding joint meetings, the planning board and the select board have joint meetings. To know what they're doing because they work parallel with one another, but they're handling a lot of the same things. And obviously, there's one lane and another lane, but they have joint meetings. It's not complex, we're not that big that you guys can't sit in a room. And people can't sit here and go, okay, they're talking to one another. And yes, you have your rules and procedures and what you can do and what you can't do. Select board theirs because you're hearing each other. Going to a meeting last night and going to another meeting, I go to a lot of meetings, I've never seen anything like this. This is ridiculous. Another thing is I just cannot believe there are parents out there that have children or they're caring for parents, sick parents or whatever, and they have to deal with this. Well, this is our lane, we can do this way. There's gotta be some sort of empathy for the residents of Housatonic. Third, we have a healthcare facility in Housatonic. Berkshire Meadows. Has anyone reached out to them at all? Because they are dealing with some of the most vulnerable people in our population. And Dr. Chang, no offense, you're a medical practitioner. Something should be done. Now, if you don't govern that, I would have to say, what is it, the Massachusetts Department of Health or whatever? The state governs healthcare facilities. Shouldn't they be called in to make sure that those patients aren't being exposed to this? There's quite a few local people who work there. And there's always backroom chatter. Oh, our water was dirty tonight. You're a healthcare facility. So I want to know, who is watching what's going on at this healthcare facility? If I had a child there. And I'm hearing all this about Housatonic water, I'd be going, damn, I got a kid there. I'm paying a lot of money. If it was a nursing home, if this was Fairview Hospital, would you be checking into it?
No,
So I'm-
landlords don't even tell their tenants, so.
I mean, I'm just totally flabbergasted what I'm hearing tonight. And I'm sorry, if anybody from the select board is on there tonight, you guys gotta get together, because this has gone on way too long. And I know, are we expecting you to fix it immediately? No. I'll probably be dead from, well, I already went down the cancer road once, but, some of us won't even be here by the time, and you won't either. Rebecca will, she's, and Michael, probably you. But, you know, it's just like, we're going around in a circle here. But to sit in one meeting last night and that meeting saying it's this board, sitting in this meeting tonight, well, the select board does this. I'm upset, I'm frustrated, and in the end, if that rate increase goes through, I'm gonna be paying for all this. And it's insulting. And just today it was posted that Great Barrington was named again the best little small town. Meanwhile, you have an entire population exposed to dirty water, and somebody brought a bottle of that dirty water in last night, and not one select board member said, hey, give it to me, I'll take a sip. No. So I am super, super angry to the point that I'm about ready to run for another office here. Because I don't like what I'm seeing as far as town government, what's going on. Thank you.
Okay,
There's no
thank
excuse
you.
For not having to. So,
Yeah, I
it exists.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak under citizen speak time in the room before we go?
Yeah,
on
Claudia
the-
Shapiro,
We heard from you, Claudia.
but this is citizen speak. So Claudia Shapiro,
In
Senator
addition,
Mark.
different.
Is it something different than you mentioned before?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, it is.
Okay.
It's two sentences, sir.
okay,
I am asking that the town of Housatonic's water is 100% squared away. Manganese, any type of haloacidic cancer causing ingredients, okay? Before the sole source aquifer in my neighborhood is made into an air park, an industrial air park with an airport expansion. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Please.
Toby Stanton, 69 Division Street. I am of the mind right now to gather the forces of Housatonic, to all the people who are paying for water there, and start a class action lawsuit against Housatonic Waterworks. That way we can legally not pay for our water until it's clean. So participants online, there's 15 of them. I'm putting it out there now.
I've heard that suggested as a good route to go, to pursue.
And maybe even find a pro bono attorney to do it, because it would be a precedent setting.
Okay, we have a couple hands up online. And I'll take them. So if there's any questions from those who are attending the meeting online, please raise your hand. I'll take them.
Those are media, just to let you know.
Yes. So we'll start with Deborah Herman.
Scroll up, please.
I think that's it. Oh, I see that. Pardon me, there's a whole bunch here.
That's the order in which. we
Okay,
raised
and
their
I see
hand.
the proper order now. So we'll start with Matt O'Brien, and since we've been going for 2 hours now, I'll ask you to keep it to 3 to 4 minutes. So we can get through these comments. So Matt, you should be able to speak momentarily.
Can you hear me?
We can, sir.
Okay,
Your name-
for
Your
the,
name and address, please.
okay, Matthew, family of O'Brien, 33 Van Duzenville, Housatonic. For the last 3 years, I took it upon myself to try to, solve this. And I've had many meetings with Jim Mercer and have looked at the options. For the financial end of it, I'm attached to an indemnity bond that I was willing to have all the pipes done under that bond, redone without having to affect the taxpayers or anybody. I gave the indemnity bond to Mark Perhensky, and it just disappeared. He wouldn't talk to me. It just was gone. I asked many times, it's just gone. But there is a water solution to this also. You could Google Northwestern University just discovered that there are 3 times the amount of water underneath the earth than there are in the oceans on this planet. And that's called primary water. I've known about it for many years and have tried to bring it up at health meetings, at the select board. Drillers don't know anything about it. Now, that study at Northwestern that just came out just discovered this. Water is manufactured in the earth. Hydrogen and oxygen under the pressure create water in that way. Now, on the higher elevations up on the hills here, there are primary springs that happen because it fractures, it builds and builds, and then it pushes out in many places. I've seen them myself. You can have the water tested at the University of Miami, where they will test for tritium, which is a nuclear material. And if it's not there, you found primary water. I've talked to Jim about this over at Housatonic Water. It wouldn't even be that expensive to do. Unfortunately, the sale of water is such a big business that Vanguard and BlackRock and all these people do not want this to be known. It's something that is, because of course, we're under corporate capture, with everything. It's actually our government at this point. So, but I went and talked to Jim about it, and the regulations are difficult there too. But, doing the infrastructure, I tried myself. I was willing to pay for it out of that indemnity bond to try to get this done without anybody having to, because they already raised taxes, on us already. And, we're a triple rated corporation, the town of Great Barrington, listed on Dun & Bradstreet, triple rated. That means that people are investing in us. We are investing in other things that we have no idea about. This Great Barrington could be worth $80 billion and we would have no idea, and, I was willing to do it myself. I also could, deal with that, but the primary water, I suggest you go just Google Northwestern University discovery. Now they think it's much further below the surface, but I've seen them in, they have it in Saudi Arabia, in the Dead Sea, they have them, many in California. And you can do the drilling and you don't have to go down so far. You can frack the, the rock with dry ice, and that will it makes a geyser that makes oil wells look like a dribble, and this water is so incredible for health. I mean, the way they discovered it back in the 50s was there was a town in Hungary where they found all of the kids were had intellectual levels beyond anybody else. So they studied it, and the only thing they could find is that they all drank from this one spring. Their source was a spring that was a primary water situation. And
Matt, if I could interrupt, we're getting there.
what's that?
Time. We're getting there.
Time. Oh, so I got less time than everybody else. Okay, that's all right. No problem.
You've had almost 5 minutes now.
All right.
If we could,
thanks for the extra too. Anyway, if any of you want to look into what happened to my indemnity bond, they won't talk to me because they want to do their things their way. Or the primary water, I suggest you just go to Google Northwestern University, big giant discovery. I've known about it for about 30 years. So, that's it. Thank you so much for
Okay.
letting me speak.
thank you as always. All right, we have John Grogan next.
Might be me. No, maybe not.
The hand's been up for a while.
Okay.
And in just a moment, you should be able to address the board momentarily.
Okay, now I'm talking.
Yes.
Yes,
can hear
now
you.
I'm talking.
Name and
And,
address.
pardon me?
Name and address. Your name and
John
address.
Grogan, 360 North Plain Road,
Thank
Housatonic,
you.
Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate a little bit what Michelle said, and I will be very brief. This is a travesty. It's been going on for 10, 20, 30 years. And you guys keep saying, well, it's somebody else's problem. And the select board keeps saying, well, it's somebody else's problem. Or conversely, it's really complicated. So we have to fix the problem. Somebody has to take charge and fix it. If you'd like me or a bunch of volunteers to do it, or join an ad hoc committee of some sort, I am available. But this has got to stop. And you guys, I mean, with all due respect, you're just passing the buck along, passing it along, and and meanwhile, we drink dirty water, and you're into compliance, and that's what you got to seek. Look at my water and see if it's compliant. It's not compliant. It's filthy. It's disgusting, and it's probably carcinogenic. But since they haven't posted their HAA 5 results in over a year, we don't know. So, and to say we would know through the EPA, I don't think that's true either, because when they first brought the HAA 5 situation to us, they delayed it a year before they told us about it. Housatonic Waterworks. So let's do something. Let's do something. I don't know if you guys can do it. Apparently you can't, but we have to do something. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. That's it.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We have Sean Isaacson next.
That's Berkshire Edge. Berkshire Eagle.
That's okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, sir.
Okay, hello, Shaw Isaacson, managing editor of the Berkshire Edge. Just two quick questions. Is there a
Sure.
way I can receive a copy of all the emails submitted as part of the Housatonic Waterworks complaints? I'd like to see the copies of the emails, as well as any copy of anything that Dollar General sent in regard to the license for the tobacco. I know it's not a full application yet, but I'd like to see the documentation of what they sent.
What's the process? They have to submit a form?
The process would be to go through the clerk's office to submit a public records request, and we can get you those records within a set period of time.
Yeah, so if you go through the clerk's office, we'll keep an eye out for that official request.
Okay, I'll send that right now. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And we have Deborah Herman next. Okay, Deborah, I think you should, if you just unmute yourself, you should be able to speak.
Deborah
There we go.
Herman, Deborah Herman, 373 North Plain, Housatonic. I want to speak to the legal route that was mentioned earlier, the class action possibility. I did work with a law firm for a period of time and attempted to, go after Housatonic Water based on consumer protection laws. It turns out that route is extremely expensive. I spent more than $20,000 of money that was donations, and also some of it came from a public interest group. And we were able to be a nuisance to Housatonic Water and force them to spend some of their money on legal stuff. But of course, it's really the money we pay them that they spent fighting this. So I'm not against a class action suit, but if there's to be one, it would require hundreds of thousands of dollars and maybe even more to effectively pursue them in that manner. And I say that from having worked with a law firm and realizing that there was no way that I could take it that far. Even pursuing them in small claims court, they will screw you and stick you into civil court where you know, your whole life savings are at stake, and they will grind you into the ground. So that's not really a viable option. The second thing I want to say is that in speaking with the lawyers that I worked with, I'm talking about the McGregor Law Firm in Boston, which is, according to them, the oldest environmental law firm in the state. And Attorney McGregor, I believe, is quite knowledgeable. He did tell me that the boards of health in Massachusetts answer to nobody. That if the Board of Health makes a decision and somebody objects to it, they have to appeal it to the Board of Health. So I'm saying to you as the Board of Health, look at the water in Housatonic, determine for yourselves whether or not it is safe to drink, whether or not it is safe for ordinary use. And if it is not, then it is incumbent upon you to take action. That means perhaps ordering Housatonic water to provide people with appropriate filtering mechanisms, or to provide them with bottled water, or whatever is necessary so that people can live healthful lives in Housatonic. If you're unwilling to take these steps, if you lack the courage, if you lack the willingness to use the power that has been entrusted to you, you should all resign. And I hope to see tomorrow that you've done so. Either take action or give it up, because you don't belong in these seats. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak, either online or in the room? I see your hand up, Matt. We'll just give it a second to see if there's anyone else who would like to speak. That includes any media who are present.
The newsletter have their hand up for a little while.
Eileen, we saw your hand up, I think, at one point. There you are. Okay, Matt, we're gonna hear from Eileen and then we'll circle to you if there's no one else. I saw Eileen. Just unmute yourself, Eileen, you're good to go.
Okay. I had things I was going to say earlier, but we've moved on. Never mind. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. Last call for those who want to speak, and we'll hear from Matt one more time, as long as it's brief, sir.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Just a quick end to it. I'll be very brief. If
Okay.
anybody is interested, there is a website called primarywater.org. It has an extensive amount of information on primary water. It's been there for quite a while. It has the history of it. The Northwestern University just discovered it. And again, that's the corporations that make money from selling us water, which I've had to drink for 18 years. I do not drink the water in Housatonic. I buy the water, or I get it from a spring that actually is a primary well. And that's it. So it's primarywater.org. Anybody can look it up, and it would be a fast, easy solution, especially for in town, because you did upgrade your pipes. So anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Not seeing any more hands up online or in the room. I will look for a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
And our final roll call will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone online who attended, and thank you everyone who came tonight.